Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Blaze No Glory, the podcast. This week I'm joined by Stuart McClellan, who runs Doon the Park on Twitter and Facebook. He keeps you up to speed with all the goings on in Fife and Lothians across the amateur game of football as well as non-league games as well. Stuart's Twitter page is like an encyclopedia for those who want to find football in the local area and is well worth checking out. You don't need to go to the New Camp, Tynecastle or Easter Road to find football. You can find football on your doorstep if you're willing to look for it. Stuart is one of the people that keeps everyone up to speed with where that football can be found and which games might be the best to check out that weekend. So I'd just like to thank Stuart for joining me on the podcast, and I hope you all enjoy the interview as much as I enjoyed speaking to Stuart. Welcome to the podcast, Stuart McClellan, also known as Doon the Park on Twitter. How are you doing?
I'm fine, mate. I'm great. Yeah, delighted to be talking to you.
Thanks very much. And can you tell me a bit, Stuart, about how you got into football?
Well, growing up, I was a stock car boy. I raced stock cars till I was 16. When I wasn't racing, I had a thing for Hearts, and I always liked watching Hearts. And my local club, Rathble Athletic, as well. So when Hearts were away from home, I'd go and watch Rathble play. That was a common occurrence. But the Rathble games suited me better because obviously the stock car started at like 5 o'clock, and I used to race myself, so it'd be a case of getting over the racing as quick as possible. So Rathble was a better option for me. It was local, and my dad wouldn't moan about coming all the way to Gorgie to pick me up. So that's how it started. I went to 2 games growing up that I hated. I went to watch Hibs play in the School Cup final. They won 1-0. I just hated it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was how loud it was. And my mum took me to watch Celtic play at Parkhead, the old Parkhead, and I don't know again if it was too loud. But when my auntie asked me to go to watch Hearts Atletico Madrid, it just seemed a lot like I fell in love. I loved them, and that was it. That's how it started.
Cool. And then you mentioned the stock cars there. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, but was that at Cowdenbeath you would race the stock cars, is it?
Yeah. We are basically in Edinburgh. Well, before Cowdenbeath, you had a track called Newton Grange that was they basically moved the stock cars over there. My dad used to mechanic for many drivers in Newton Grange, and that's where I first went. But obviously, we followed the trend and went to Cowdenbeath in a race 97 to 2001.
Okay.
So good times.
Cool. And did you ever feel a little bit bad about messing up the pitch at Cowdenbeath? Because I think I went once and there was a car skidded across the penalty box at one point.
Well, I'm not going to give too much away, mate, but my nickname's Flymo. That says it all, really. That was my nickname.
Brilliant. So you obviously you run a Twitter account called Doon the Park, that has its eye on lower league and junior football. First and foremost, because it confuses me, what's the difference between non-league and junior football?
Well, junior football's your Broxburns are sort of like, I don't know how you could describe it, like Broxburn and teams like Broxburn, Blackburn, teams like that. They guys get a wage of some sort. They'll maybe get like £20 a game, and it's probably a bit better. But I myself love amateur football more than anything because it's more honest, in my opinion. It's guys who are fighting for their town, and it's all friends of guys who are from the town. I love that. I love the passion. So much better in my eyes, anyway.
Yeah, and I notice sometimes when you're tweeting things out, there's teams, and I'm sort of like, what's that team? I've never heard of them, and things like that. So, is there a Sunday league that you go to as well as sort of midweek stuff and Saturdays?
Doon the Park, we started with just Saturday teams, and it has been up until this season. But my brother-in-law to be plays for a team on a Sunday called Burnside Tower, and I'm helping him as a coach this year. I mean, I'm still going to try and cover as many games as I can, but that's my Sundays basically was my day off, where I would actually go and just chill out and watch a game and no report on the game. I would actually enjoy it a lot more than I would. I mean, I love my reporting, but it's just I can chill out and watch the game. It's a lot better. So I mean, as of this season, I'll be doing a lot of PM Sunday games, just try and stay away from the team I'm coaching, so I'm not that biased, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And what made you decide to start covering so many games that in the lower leagues?
Well, going back to watching Hearts, when we first started the page, me and a guy called Robert Mann, Robert and me had the idea. It was actually watching Rathel. I'm a Rathel boy. We're watching Rathel v Balerno play, and we came up with the idea that these teams didn't get much coverage. I don't know if you remember the Pink newspaper. In Edinburgh, used to have it was every Saturday night. I would myself queue up for it, and I'd read it page to page, came one end to the other, and it would be that was my dream, to make it like a sort of social media version, doing the social media version of it. And I mean, it's growing every week. We're getting 30, 40 followers, and I just feel the more the better. And it's now we're doing a goal scoring chart as of up to about maybe a week ago, and the hassle we had, it was stressing me out. So we got rid of that, and now it was just a case of like putting the results up's no hard at all. The league tables can be a bit tricky, but it's no hard, and it just means that I need to get out and see every team. But that might be the hard bit. But we'll stick by it, and we'll try our best. It's only fair to give these teams the coverage they deserve. Ken, I mean, they all put their money into the club, and they're all doing it behind the scenes. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to 3 games now that I guess you would class as non-league or lower league football. 2 at Broxburn, 1 at Livingston United, which was pretty unique because there was no floodlights and it was midweek, so you could tell it was starting to, dusk was coming, sort of thing. But there's something, I don't know, a bit more magical about it, in the sense that you're closer to the action, and there just seems to be a lot more pride in it than perhaps going to watch your professional teams. Is that what you find about it, or?
Well, that's again right. So Doon the Park, the reason it started was I was watching Hearts during the Levine era. I don't know if you know Hearts well, but that was a really bad time, and it was a time that stressed me out. I mean, that year we decided to follow Hearts home and away. I think we missed 1 game all season, and then I just decided, I'm like, I'm paying £32 for a ticket to go to, say, Celtic Park. I'm religiously buy programmes, so I'd be buying a programme, and say I was going for a drink, and you're talking £100. And that's when I decided I'm going to try and follow Rathel up for a bit. They were my local team. I'll just follow them. It's free, and I'll probably enjoy it. And that's where it came. That's where I got the idea. It's in my opinion, brilliant. And you meet guys. I met loads of pals for life. I mean, you look at Burnside, the team I'm helping. They guys are my pals, and I didn't know them about 2 years ago, and they became two of my best mates through football. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Again, amateur sports where the friendships really are made. And in terms of your games, you've obviously been to a lot of games. What's your sort of most memorable games that you've been to?
Well, the one that meant the most to me, being a Rathel boy, was Rathel Craigshill. I made a match day programme for it, and sold about. I think we got 200 made, and we sold most of them. I've still got about 30, 40 left. That was a big day for me. I mean, obviously Rathel won the league. I can't prove that I can't show that I'm a bit biased, but I mean, being a Rathel boy and watching them since the early 90s, it meant a lot for us to win that cup. I say us, them to win that cup, and that was great. But the game that meant the most, the game I really enjoyed was. It was a Saturday after that game, and it was Craigshill, the team that played in the final against Christophe Dynamo. And it was the one time that I struggled to report on it, because literally from the 80th minute to the 94th minute, there was about 5 goals scored. Ended 6-all. It was one of the best games I've ever seen in all forms of football. It just was brilliant. I'm sure Craigshill were up 3-0 at one point, and it ended 6-all. It was brilliant. Loved it.
Well, that's exciting stuff, and where obviously Rathel is a place close to your heart. But where's your favourite place to go and watch a game?
I love Broxburn. I love the Albion. I don't know. I just another club that's sort of close to my heart because they're local, and I mean I write a bit in the programme now, just sort of introducing a new club every home game. So that I don't know if it's because of the Rathle game when they won the cup. I don't know. It just means a lot. It's a place that I like.
Well, it's one of my claims to fame from I'd done a bit of blogging is that I actually featured in the Broxburn programme. I think it was last season, so I'm not sure if it was yourself I've got to thank for that or not. But I managed to, one of my blog posts about my first visit to Broxburn. They were playing Linlithgow. Was featured in the programme, so it's one of my claims to fame, I guess, in the football world.
Was that the one at Christmas time, last Christmas, or a couple of Christmases ago?
It was the Christmas. They'd announced that they were reducing the amount of people who could go to a game to 500, and obviously the Premiership decided to cancel all their games. But that game went ahead, and it was at capacity, and it was a great game. Linlithgow won, but it was an absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a game we went to and we loved it as well. I'm sure Linlithgow won 3-1 that night, if I remember right.
It was
brilliant.
2-0, I think. I think they got a penalty, and it was like this goal was one of the best goals I'd seen from the Linlithgow striker. He sort of turned and blasted it top corner.
Yeah, it's the same game. I remember it. It was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that was a great game. Yeah. Again, these teams like Linlithgow and they've got a lot of hope in the future. Ken, these teams could. I mean, it's been proven with teams like Edinburgh City. They just need a bit of luck, and they could go up the divisions. I mean, they got a lot of good funding there. They could do all right.
Yeah, I truly think so. I think certainly the setup at Broxburn, and I understand that Linlithgow is very professionally set up as well, as it would stand them in good stead because they've got quite a good local following as well.
Yeah.
And where's your favourite place for a pie in football? You mentioned Broxburn, so that's probably one of them. But is there anyone else that has good pies?
Well, obviously, I was speaking to a guy at work today about this, and he said something about East West Linton. I've never heard that, so I obviously can't comment. But following the games, I'm mainly amateur. We didn't get many pies, but what I do, one story I will say was watching when Doon the Park first started. The first year we started it, we followed Rathle to Greenlaw, a Borders team, and they had pies and they had bovrils, and that was lovely. I mean, they've not got much to choose from because it's the only time I had a pie at an amateur game. But I would say that's probably the best.
Brilliant. And are you a bovril person yourself, or is it tea or coffee you drink at the games?
Bovril for me, mate. Love bovril.
Because I've never really got it, and I've tried it before, but it's not for me. But what is it that is so special about bovril in football? Have you got an answer to that, or is it just that's the way it's
just when you're young? It's I don't know. It's just a memory, isn't it? You remember it being warming you up when you're wee, and just liked it. I don't know. It's just reminds you of football. It's like when you go to Tynecastle and you smell the brewery. It's even now if you drive past it, you go, oh, it just brings back good times. I think that's all it is. I do enjoy it.
Cool. And you might mention Tynecastle there, and a bit of a Hearts fan, and you said you've been to a lot of the away games. Where's the sort of the best place to go for an away game in the top flight, or sort of the upper flights of Scottish football?
Well, I'm going to judge this on Manny. Manny's disabled. She's in a wheelchair, and that's my Nana and Manny are the two that got me mainly into Hearts. So following for disabled access, I would say our favourite stadium to go together is Kilmarnock. We've just the view's brilliant. You're right behind the goals, and obviously the grub's no bad either. To be honest with you, it's really good.
Cool. And the season's obviously just begun. Is there any standout players that you've witnessed this season? I think you posted up a couple of goal highlights a couple of days ago as well. But Who's stood out for you this season in terms of players or teams that are ones that you would recommend people should go and watch because there's something special going on?
I'm going to go with Logan Lee. They're a team in West Lothian. The guy who I've been speaking to doesn't believe that I think they'll win the league. I say they'll win the league. I think it'll be between them and Long Nidri. Logan Lee are I've done a programme piece on them. I think they've been called many names in the past, but they're basically a community club. The community runs the club. They're everything around them is, to prep for the season, the community comes together and they cut the grass, they paint the fence. It's absolutely brilliant. And I've seen them first day of the season against Long Nidri Villa, and they looked frightening that day. So they're the team that I'm most impressed with so far with what I've been reporting on.
Cool. And so Logan Lee, where are they based in West Lothian?
Addywell.
Addywell, right? Okay, because the name Logan Lee didn't pop up to me as a place that I was too familiar with. And what's the next sort of batch of games you're going to be covering over the next few weeks, and where can people look out for your reports?
I'm going to be covering twice this week. Now, obviously, with what I was saying earlier about the goal scorers, I've been trying to cut it back a bit because of stress, because it was literally like, we had in the goal scorers and doing reports, you're talking like 7-8 hours a weekend working on it, and it's just too much for a guy who's got a family myself and life. You know what life, you struggle for that on a weekend. So now that the goal scorers have been cancelled, which I think is the best bet, considering the fact that about 10 teams weren't giving you the scorers, so you're losing that out. There's no point in doing that if you're not getting the goal scorers. Yeah. Anyway, the games this weekend, there's going to be a double header. We're going to watch Clermiston AFC against Standerhall Miners on the Saturday, and on the Sunday we're going to watch Stockton Sounders against Falkirk. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, and if people are interested in going to particularly the amateur games, where's the best place they can sort of look up apart from Doon the Park? Where can they find out more about these teams and where they can see them?
There's guys on Twitter, a guy called Kenneth Bryce, and there's a guy, Simon 1875, I think his name is. Didn't quote me on that. If you search on Doon the Park, I'm sure I follow them. In fact, I follow them both, and they guys are the same as me in a way that it's a different sort of style. They guys do it live, and they do it on Twitter live where I do a report, but they guys do the exact same thing. What they do for the local, for amateur football is brilliant, and I mean, I didn't find it hard work at all. I'm sure they'll say the same. It's a joy to do it. I love it. I wasn't great at school. I've learned more doing the part than I did at school.
Well, it's brilliant stuff you do, because it's very in depth, and it's at Doon the Park on Twitter. There's no hidden underscores or anything I'm missing there.
No, at Doon the Park, and obviously on Facebook as well, Doon the Park.
Well, I encourage everyone who's got an interest in amateur football or football at all to give you a follow, because there's a lot of stuff on there, and you'll discover some teams that you didn't know were maybe playing right around the corner from you. As I certainly noticed when I was like, oh, there's a team in Curry that I didn't know about, and there's a team here and there and everywhere that I didn't know about. So it's really great stuff that you do. So keep up that.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
And just lastly, we do live in Scotland, and a lot of these games that you're going to will be sort of, not well covered or anything like that. What's your tips for keeping warm in Scotland in the winter games?
When I was a wee boy at the stock cars, my dad used to just say, "Run on the spot." That'll do.
Well, there you go. You got a bit of exercise.
Stamp your feet. Stamp your feet.
Brilliant. Well, I will certainly be following, and I've obviously, like yourself, if you said about life and everything, and I can imagine that it's a lot of work you do, and it's great work you do for the game. But Hopefully, I'll manage to come along to a game, and I'll maybe even see you there doing your reporting. But thanks
Well,
for
it's it.
coming on.
Cheers, mate. It's obviously again hard work as well. We've got. I promised them I'd give them a shout out. The boys. Well, I've started an over 35 team this year, along with my brother-in-law. And that's. I mean, they're buzzing that I'm on this, so I'll give them a shout out as well. I'm in Star. That's my team, the team that I'm sort of helping well. But I founded it, and I'm taking training and picking the team, and so I'm doing all that as well, which again is a joy. But here's hoping, bring it on.
Brilliant. So, I was going to say to you, if there's anyone you want to give a shout out to, so was that Ammon Star you said, was it?
Ammon Star, yeah. The reason they're called Ammon Star is it's basically 5-a-side guys that I play with, who are all based around the River Ammon. And we got the name Starfy. I know we didn't want to call it Rathlow because folk would know. That's my team. So we called it after an old Rathlow team called Rathlow Star that was from the 70s. So that's why Ammon Star. That's where we got that from. So
yeah. And Ratho itself, I mean, it might as well, since you've mentioned Ratho a few times, it does have one of the nicest sort of little I guess you would call it a kind of greasy spoon sort of newsagent place that serves amazing bacon rolls as well. If anyone's want to go to a game and get a bacon roll in the morning, am I right?
Right, you've got me stuck. I'm sure it's number 77. It's called. It's a lovely wee place. Yeah. Sure it's this number 77 on the main street. Great place. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's brilliant to talk to you. And as I say, the work you do and the efforts you put in, as I say, it's got me looking around. That I follow a lot of different sports as you know, it gets me looking around, going, well, if I'm maybe going to be free, I can maybe go and catch that. Or the work you do is excellent for anyone who's maybe not sure where they can catch a game of football on the cheap. And I say that loosely. It's not about being on the cheap, but you can catch a game of football that's reasonable to watch and get really close to the action and basically hear the leather being scalped on the ball, which I think is, for me, is what I loved about it compared to going to watch Dundee Livingston, where it was all I could hear was people booing and shouting for Ian McPake to get sacked. So so it's been great for me going to these games, and I'm hoping to catch a couple more. I think the next one I've got target is Whitburn Juniors are hosting Broxburn in one of the cup competitions. So I'm hopefully going to check that out next week. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And everyone, please check out at Doon the Park on Twitter. And thanks very much.
Thanks, mate. And same to you. All the best. Love what you do as well. Followed you for a couple of years now. Brilliant work. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks to Stuart for coming on the podcast. At Doon the Park on Twitter if you want to follow him. Doon the Park on Facebook if you want to check him out there. Puts his game reports up there. Different scores of the week, players of the week, league tables, where games are happening, who might be a good game to go and check out. All sorts of different stuff. So really, it's worth a follow of at Doon the Park if you like football at all. It's worth following. Even if you think, I will never go to an amateur game, then it's still worth following, because you never know when you might have a free Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning and you want to get out of the house and watch a bit of football. So it's definitely worth it. I did enjoy the little bit about Stuart saying he was Flymo. I've been to Cowdenbeath race car before, and I can tell you there's a few Flymos and possibly a few Black and Deckers as well. I did enjoy that story. I have to confess that this was recorded on the 1st of September, so the games that Stuart's referring to going to, he's actually been to. I know that the Clermiston one finished 5-0, so lots of goals, but maybe a little bit one-sided. As well as that scoreline, I also discovered a team called at White Lightning FC on Stuart's Twitter feed, which is just the best name for anything ever. I was surprised they weren't from Dundee Uni, to be fair, based on how my mates that went to Dundee Uni used to consume White Lightning on Triple Hammer, which I don't even know if it's still a thing. That aside, please do check out Stuart, because he does a lot of good work, busts his backside for the game of football, and his passion for it is worth following. In terms of future podcasts, I'm hoping to do a URC or a United Rugby Championship preview episode next time, looking ahead at how Edinburgh and Glasgow might fare in that, hopefully with a special guest. So check that out next week. If you're not interested in rugby, then there will be other stuff following that. It's different sports, as I say, most weeks, looking at different topics or different conversations within those sports, or even just introducing a sport and why you might like it. So please do not hesitate to get in touch if you want something covered, if you want to be on the podcast and talk to me about a specific sport. I'm open to speaking about any sport with anyone. Finally, just a little plug for the British University Ice Hockey Association podcast returning. Rambo and Nick's podcast is back. I'm pleased to be doing this. It's always going to be near and dear to my heart. It was something that made me realise that I love podcasting and I love basically talking into the void and hoping that someone's listening. So do check that out. If you want the link, please send me a message and it can be sent to you. It's pretty niche. It talks mainly about university ice hockey, but hey ho, it's worth listening to because we normally go kind of off the piste. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed yourselves this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Cheers.